For today's showcase, I want to give you my first impressions on this indie game called Helskate. It's a Tony Hawk DMC-like game that has action roguelike mechanics behind it. All those concepts seem a bit ambitious, like it just seems like a smoothie going wrong, but this is actually a match made in heaven for these type of games. I'm always on the lookout when it comes to skateboarding games. Not too long ago, I just played and reviewed a Jet Set Radio-like game called Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which was an amazing game that was nostalgic but was able to thrive in the current state we are in for gaming. I remember mentioning or feeling to see more of these type of games, especially how creative these developers can be. It's also the fact that we don't have any big skateboarding games in this day and age from the AAA market space in gaming, so lo and behold, here's another game from an era that I missed, but they were able to modernize the format of this game. It clearly has strong inspirations from Tony Hawk, while it has certain concepts from Devil May Cry. Mechanically, the game functions like a Tony Hawk game. More so, it really reminds me of the Tony Hawk Underground series. You also see Underground's inspirations within the environments of the game, which is something I personally enjoy seeing. What makes this a DMC game is the action portion. There's actual combat in this game that mechanically works like a hack and slash game. What even makes this much more DMC-like is the variety of weapons you could have to approach these enemies in the areas you go through, while you are able to perform cool tricks to gain more of your score and to do damage on the enemies. It does not have a hack and slash combo system like DMC, but since it's a skateboarding game, the combos you do are the tricks you perform. The combat itself is very simple to say the least, but I have not progressed as far to unlock the other weapons. There are quite a lot of weapons to unlock, which is great to have and potentially change how you approach not just combat, but how you progressively gain points and damage enemies faster to get into the next area. Since it is a roguelike, there are plenty of skills and passives to obtain. I also don't think the roguelike part of this game is as difficult, and that's completely fine by me. I'm usually not a big fan of roguelike games. I do enjoy them to a certain degree if I want to just simply keep playing the game, but I do end up feeling this burnout if I keep dying and starting all the way from the first level again. With this game, I don't necessarily feel that, as this is genuinely fun to play and the purpose of this game is to be stylish. I do enjoy how this isn't a simple game to hop into. If you are not familiar with Tony Hawk games, this may be a bit difficult at the start, but once you understand the mechanics, you'll sink in quite nicely with the gameplay flow. I was surprised how much of an improvement I've gone through from the first 4 hours I've initially played. It's been a long time since I last played Tony Hawk Underground on the PS2, so my first hour wasn't the greatest, and also the game slowly teaches you how to play, so by the end of the second to fourth hour, I was already getting a hang of things. I'm not quite the best yet, but it's much better than how I initially played. With the amount of trick combos you can do with your skateboard, this is what I mean where it is like DMC. Devil May Cry requires you to know how to combo properly and knowing what buttons to press. Helskate is very similar within this department, where your knowledge of these tricks are as important as just understanding the mechanics for its roguelike. What's cool about having a trick combo system and an action roguelike is how they implemented certain trick combos that could help you combat the enemies. Like doing a kickflip will help you summon AoE flames to back off and damage enemies. There's also gear to collect that could help you with many passives, or movement so you could be able to maneuver around much smoother through these areas. Surprisingly, this game has a lot of systems and mechanics created to have a lot of engagement for the player. Although you are doing the same thing over and over again, you have this itch to always perform better. I could confidently say that they have crafted this well, even though it seems like a blended mess of all genres. That's really important when creating video games, is how passionate and ambitious the format can be. I do believe that some games don't have the soul or passion when developers come in to create a game. What I picked up when I used to play games from back then and now is how the concepts from back then always try to do something unique, while today's gaming kind of stays on the safer side, or if they think it's too much, they'll tone it down. I guess maybe there's a side of me where I just like the fun and wackiness in video games, but that's how I always perceived many games, and why I am more focused on gameplay than story in today's gaming. Having depth in gameplay is very important, which we don't see much in the AAA space. Helskate does display many of these positive aspects of what I always seek in modern gaming. It's stylish, has intricate design, and has a fun gameplay loop. It also does give nostalgia, even if their purpose wasn't necessarily for that. Just like when I played Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, I felt I went back in time just sitting down in front of my TV as I was playing all these skateboarding games. Again, we haven't seen a different game and studio create something like Tony Hawk. As much as I have many positive opinions about Helskate, there are some flaws about this game. I do want to note that it is still in early access, which means there are plenty of improvements and updates to come in the near future. One of the biggest flaws of this game so far is the performance. Surprisingly, this game is a bit demanding when running on its max settings when you have all your image effects on. I ran into some stutters from time to time, which do affect your moment-to-moment gameplay, as it's very important to execute many tricks. I noticed these stutters appear when there are many things happening on your screen, but fortunately enough, just simply turning it off, the image effects will make these stutters disappear. There's not much of a visual change either, but I do hope the team optimizes this soon, as the game looks really good with these image effects on. Another small issue I have is the enemy variety, more so boss rooms. Now, I know I haven't progressed as far, as I just made it recently to the second map, which I do feel like there's still a lot of content to experience. So far, not many bosses to see. I've literally only seen 2 bosses that operate differently. At least with enemy variety, there is some diversity to them. To be fair, the main focus of this game is the skateboarding and its tricks, but the other side of things that make it unique is its combat. I do still wish to see improvements in combat, and I know they can only do so much, but we'll wait and see how this plays out in future updates. One of the last issues I've seen is how you're able to clip through areas such as walls or even floors. Luckily, the game does fix itself by respawning your character almost immediately. I don't think this is a big issue as of now, but I do find myself clipping through many parts of the map occasionally. Overall, I believe it is a solid game, and I want everyone to support this. Like I mentioned earlier, this game is still in early access, so if you ever get into this, you may bump into some minor issues here and there, but it's such a fun game to just sit down, relax, and play. The small details when it comes to its cosmetics are quite nice. I do like how nearly every upgrade or change in equipment has a different look to it, or the way they build up your character for a whole different look when you have these temporary upgrades is something they didn't necessarily have to do. So clearly this team knows what's important for what this game needs. Once this project is complete, I do hope to see more of this team and what they can create, which is why we have to keep supporting teams or studios like this. Currently it is only on Steam, but I also wish to see this as a multi-platform game. I would love to play this on my Switch, or even seeing this on console would be great. Just having them branch to a wider audience is much deserved. This wraps up for today's video. I do hope you find this insightful, and maybe you want to try it out if you haven't tried it yet. I will be answering questions if you have any that are related to this game. Other than that, remember to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't yet. For those who are new, I love to cover many different games, especially if I'm not familiar with the team or studio. I like to discover new games like this. If you're about that, definitely check out my channel. But alright guys, hope you have a good one. Peace.